Hello and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, former UCLA high jumper many, many moons ago, and now just coaching and living the life, working with young athletes, sometimes some mid-range age athletes, and then some older masters athletes, working with some junior Olympians and some Paralympians and also hopefully some future Olympians. Just and here we are raising the bar in our podcast, trying to talk about not just the high jump, the jumps in general, but how to raise the bar on our game, technique wise, power wise, strength wise, flexibility wise, whatever it is that makes us a better jumper. And tonight I have a special treat for us. It's a second podcast with Michael Millslagle. He is a young man who just graduated from Graceland University. He was a six-time All-American at the NAIA level. He was an eight-time conference champ. So if you do the math, that's 4 years, both indoor and out. So he won his conference every single time. His personal best is now 220, which he jumped 4 or 5 different times last year, and the 220 mark put him in the top 25 of the United States jumpers, which got him to go to the Olympic trials. So we're going to talk to him about that, talk to him about all his accomplishments, and now that he's graduated, and we'll get a chance to hear about what his goals are, whether he's going to keep training and try to come at the trials again in 2028. I still don't even know where the trials are going to be held, whether it be here at the Coliseum or at maybe Mount Sac, or the traditional place for the last few times has been up in Oregon. Nike money is flowing, both in Oregon and at Mount Sac. And so, yeah, it'd be exciting. And basically, 3.5 years for getting back to it. So we're going to check in here with Michael Millslagle when he hops into the green room here in a second. So we'll be back and we'll be talking about future greatness with Michael Millslagle on Raise the Bar.
Hello.
Hey, Michael, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I still can't see you. I can't. Oh, there you are. I can hear you and see you. Perfect. Hey, it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. It has.
I was just thinking, my first year at Vanguard was 4 years ago. This is my fourth year. So I remember we did a podcast then, and I got to see you jump at the NAIA finals, right?
Yep.
Shannon and other company. So tell us what's been going on, man.
Oh, well, how long ago was that? Two years ago, 2.5
Yeah,
years
two or
ago?
three, two or three.
Oh, well, since then, I've won a couple national championships. Last year I was runner up at the outdoor championships again. Tied with Shannon, jumping 220. Him
Hmm.
and we had a shootout over there. That was one of the probably the most fun meet I've ever had in my life. That
Right.
was unreal. And then that jump qualified me for the Olympic trials and went there. Didn't quite have the performance that I was hoping for out there, but
Yeah.
it was a great experience. I had an amazing time.
What we're here on Raise the Bar, and I'm talking with Michael Millslagle. Refresh us our memories again. Were you still at the same school, I'm assuming?
No, I actually graduated last spring. This year, I'm going to be competing unattached on my own. I'm still kind of helping out the team, Grayson University, helping them with their jumps and stuff, and that allows me to not only help develop some of the younger people on the team, but allows me to train for myself and for the meets and stuff that I have coming up. So that's kind of what I'm doing at this point in my journey.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a transition I never really made. I was still on campus. I hadn't graduated yet, and I want to tell you, I was lost. I literally did not know what I was going to do because I was a kinesiology major, but if you'd have asked me at that time, I just had no vision for the future. I was tunnel vision guy. I was like, I was going to the Olympics and that was it. So, 86 was not an Olympic year, but it was my senior year. 87, I was on campus. I wasn't training. I was just kind of wandering around. I would go to practice and hang out, and I worked with the decathletes a little bit, but, never anything formal, never anything that incredible. And yeah, I was just looking back on it, it definitely was an opportunity wasted. It was like,
Yeah.
in hindsight, I could have been trained. I had no idea what it was like to be out of the area because in 1988, the following year in 87 is just a weird, terrible year for me, motivation and everything else. And so in 88, I was like, oh, I'm gonna drop out of school and train for the trials. I only had like a semester left or a quarter, left. And I'm like, I'm gonna take the year off and train for the trials because I didn't think I'd be able to do what I needed to do, to get in. And the trial height was, I want to say 225, and at least it might have gone from 224 to 225 to 226. Because I remember in 84 it was 224. But anyway, so you did a much better job. It sounds like you were smarter. You stayed on campus while working. I found out later that it's nice to have facilities. It's nice to have a
Mhm.
training room. It's nice to have a weight room. When you're on your own, those things are harder to come by. So
Yeah.
kudos to you on your decision now. Um, so you finished at Graceland. What was the grand total of titles, both indoor and out?
Um, so I finished a six-time All-American between indoor and outdoor. All-American three times indoor, All-American three times outdoor, national champion two times indoor, uh, national runner-up two times outdoor. So outdoor was kind of the bane of my existence. I
Right.
never got an outdoor title, but I always had I had some great performances outdoor. I went 8 for 8 in our conference. So I had the whole sweep throughout my freshman to senior year. Never
Wow.
lost a conference meet. So I
That's
think that,
amazing.
yeah, that's one
Eight-time
of my
conference champion. Wow. Um, and then, excuse me, I just got back from from doing stuff. I'm like chomping. Um,
you know
the when you got last year, I'm so jealous. You got to go to the Olympic trials. So tell me, when did you have that on your radar for the whole year? Was that a goal to get the trial height? And then yeah.
yeah. So early on last year, I think it was our first meet back from break. I jumped 220, had a monster meet, great jumped 220. That just put my confidence at an all-time high because I knew the trial mark was 223, and so ever since that meet, I was kind of working towards 223, trying to get there, and
Right.
then I actually jumped 220 twice in the outdoor regular season. So I had some pretty good attempts at 223. I never quite got there. And then outdoor nationals hit. I jumped 220 again. I also had some really close attempts at 223. Never quite got it. But our outdoor championships was a World Athletic Sanction meet. So that actually gave me the qualifying mark to enter towards the trials.
B standard,
And
right? That was the B
yeah,
standard, 220. Yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't know if there is a B standard, but I know
No.
they took the top 25, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think that tied me in
Okay.
top 25.
Oh, so amazing. So once you get through all that, you go to nationals, you finish second. Who beat you? Was it Shannon? Or was there somebody else?
Yeah, it was Shannon. It was Shannon. He's a five-time national champion. He won it five times throughout his career,
Shannon.
and yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah.
He had himself a day.
Yeah. Well, I just we're catching up again. I worked, I can't remember if you went first and then Shannon last time or so. This time I got to Shannon again and he told me that even though I think like you, he went to the trials as well, right? Or he didn't go. He
No,
told
he didn't go.
qualified but didn't go.
He decided to hang him up.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, very interestingly. And then, but not quitting high jumping, right? He's changing events. He's like doing some sprints or
Yeah,
something. Right?
yeah, he's turning into a 400 hurdle guy, I
Hmm.
believe, is what he told
Okay.
me last time we talked.
Interesting. It's like a midlife crisis at
Yeah,
23. Yeah, he's just a perfect high jump body, right?
yeah, yeah.
Watch him his doing stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna retire. I go, come out here. I'll train you for.
I know.
I want to see him jump like 7.5 or 7.6, just like you. Um, so walk us through that, Michael, and walk me through it. I'm like I said, I'm so jealous. What was when you had the realization that you were going, like, how did you have to extend your season, your training? Like, were you on top of it? Did you know you were going far enough away where you could, kind of extend what you were doing? And, did you have a plan to try to jump, something higher, like 225 or something like that?
So we kind of had a good idea that I was going to be in the top 25. I mean, my coach and I were both very optimistic. So as soon as we knew that that mark put us in the top 25, we kept training, we kept going at it, try to think of it as another meet. But rather than doing kind of our normal stuff, we kind of raised the bar a little bit higher, more than
Mhm.
normal, because the starting height, man, that starting height was 7 foot. And a
Was
jumper
it
like me,
214, 215? What did they open at? 215?
214.
214. So 7 feet and a quarter inch. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So for a guy like me, that's not normal. So we were kind of trying to focus on starting at a higher height and getting over that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way, but the experience was unreal. You get to see all these guys that you have been, looking up to or watching in the past that you're like, man, like just really in awe by them.
Right.
And that for me was probably the coolest part. Seeing Javon Harrison, practicing on the same pit as him, seeing Shelby McEwen jumping in the same heat as him. That was
Yeah.
that was something special.
That's awesome. Yeah. Then who else was out there? Dontavius Hill was
Yep,
there.
Davies was there.
Had you jumped
Um,
with him before, against him anywhere?
Yeah, I actually got to jump against him at Drake at the Drake Relays here in Iowa.
Hmm.
That was cool. We talked for a little bit. He's a very down to earth and very cool person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now you're talking about opening heights and all that. When you were jumping, say you jumped 7.2 numerous times now. So when you were jumping at those heights, what would you usually open at?
Um, my comfort height really to start is 2 meters. I pushed it to 205 a couple times last year, but normally I'd come in at 2 meters, kind of just to feel out how I'm doing, and then make adjustments from then, and then I would just keep going up.
Right. Okay. So 2 meters, 205, 210, 215, depends on the progression that they pick, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I was weird that way. Once I got going, it seemed like it was always 5 centimeters for us when I was at UCLA, but I really didn't know the metrics very well. In high school, all they ever told us was feet and inches.
Hmm.
And if they were using the metric, they didn't bring it. Either they thought we were too dumb to memorize them, or I don't even know. I still think they were just going by inches because at our big finals down here was called CIF for this particular area of California. It's a huge state, right? So we're down
Hmm.
south, there's up north, there's middle through the state, there's San Diego, there's like all these different counties. And so at our CIF finals, I jumped 6'10", and they said it's 6'10". It went from 6'6" to 6'8" to 6'10". There's no three quarters, no quarter, no nothing. And I had had some experience with referees and bars. So once I made the height, I asked him to measure it. And it turned out to be 6'10" and 3/4. It was 2 meters 10. And it was a good thing I did because that broke our school record because would have been tied at 6'10" with a couple other people. And so I didn't know that that was 2 meters 10, but it was incorrectly measured. So it worked out. And I'm trying to think back. I just remember at college, a lot of times it was 2 meters, 205, 210, 215, 220, but it always did depend. Um,
Hmm.
okay. Do you think that was, I don't know, it's a tough way. I'm trying to think my way into this question. how many really good jumps do you think you have when you show up at a meet? Like how many where you're just like, man, I'm just gonna pop. I know I've got, I'm gonna have 5 or 6 inches on this and whatever that is. Like if you're experimenting, like you're not quite sure, like you said, maybe it's early in the season, like those are the times I think it was always easier to open lower, right? And kind of work your way in.
Mhm.
Whereas when you're really sharp, you're trying to think, man, maybe I can save some of these jumps for the really big heights, right?
Yeah, typically for me, it really depends on that first jump at the first height for me. Like, I've had a couple meets where, when I start at 2 meters, I jump and I'm probably like 6 or 7 inches over it. And
Yeah,
that for me kind of tells me that, all right, I'm going to jump this next height and then probably skip a height and wait until it goes higher because I'm feeling really good right now.
yeah.
It's typically about, I would say, 6 jumps is when I know.
You've got, yeah.
Yeah, when I hit my peak is in pretty much my sixth jump.
Hmm. Okay. Just as a guy that was there, I did not see the Olympic trials themselves. I read about them. I did a podcast with Dontavius maybe a couple weeks before. So he had talked about he had gone to a previous meet. I don't know if you saw his post, and he opened at 7.8, something like
Hmm.
that, right? And took a couple pretty good jumps at it. And so, he had originally told me that he was just going to open low, but then he passed at 214 and opened at 219 and no heighted. So that was a big experience for him. Um, yeah. So hit us with this now. You're a graduate student, you're staying on to help at the school, gives you training facilities. What is the plan now for Michael Millslagle? You gonna try to come back for 2028 in Los Angeles? What are we
Yeah.
pushing towards?
So I'm very fortunate. My hometown is here where Graceland University is at. And my dad owns a company, and I'm the fourth generation of that company.
Hmm.
So right now I'm currently working out here and also training on the side. So my father's very flexible on my track stuff. He knows my desires, he knows what I dream of. So
Right,
he's very helpful in that manner of allowing me to, leave work 30 minutes early to go get ready for practice and train.
right,
And
right.
so yeah, I'm planning on, training and working out and competing for the next 4 years to try and go again for 2028.
Love it.
Because
Oh,
in in my mind, I didn't peak until college, right? A lot of
yeah.
people they start going crazy in high school and carry
Mhm.
it on through college. I didn't start going crazy until I got into college. So in my mind, I'm 4 years behind. I have 4 more years to go
Yeah,
crazy and peak. So I'm very excited for 2028. I feel like I have a whole lot left in me. I feel like I have a lot of big jumps coming ahead, and I have the facilities to do it. I
yeah.
have the training to do it. I have the coaching. So
You
that's
got a
my
good
plan.
support staff, sounds like,
Yeah.
with your parents and yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at yourself jumping, and this is a really a tough question, but you're a very mature young man. Do you have a vision for where you see yourself going as far as technique? Like, are there certain things that you go, hey, I really want to work on this? Like, for instance, I work with a smattering of I get them all now. It seems like I've got junior Olympians, I've got high schoolers, I've got, sometimes I've got the middle schoolers even, but then I've got high schoolers. And so I know in high school, it's like, okay, let's get to CIF, let's get to state. If you go on, you go on, great. And I have a smattering of college athletes, a couple of elites. I've worked with a couple Paralympians. So, when you're going along, and you're saying, oh, I want to make these changes. When I look at certain people, I'm like, oh, we really need to do this. I can see within a couple seconds if their takeoff leg is straight up and down, their upper body is leaning way into the bar. You're like, okay, you're bailing early. We got to work on hitting vertical, or whatever it is. What do you see in your jumping as your biggest strength? Okay, let's do that, and then we'll turn around and look at the thing you want to work on the most. So, what's the thing that gets you to jump, 7.2 and eventually 7.4? What's your best trait?
For me personally, I think it's my adaptability into my run. because I every year in the last 4 years, I've changed my run to
Mhm.
kind of bring in a lot more speed because I'm a smaller guy. You've
Right.
seen me compared to a
Yeah.
lot of the big high jumpers. I'm smaller, so I feel like my speed allows me to get more power, which would allow me to get a lot higher. So I think that is one of my strengths in what I do. A lot of the things that like, I'm very nitpicky when it comes to looking back at my videos and seeing what I
Mhm.
did, see what I can do better. For me, when I watch the big elite jumpers, it's my knee drive. My knee drive is so bad compared to a lot of the elite jumpers.
Mhm.
I really need to work on that part.
Okay. It's interesting. I'll send you a couple things. I've done a couple of presentations. You're talking about to me, the number one element for anybody is that knee drive, right?
Mhm.
And excuse me, I was watching the Olympics this summer, of course, and when I saw the two guys that jumped the best were right away, both in the prelim and in the final. McEwen and Kerr were both just on fire. Now,
Yeah.
you knew Barshim was going to show up, but I keep thinking, man, he's just getting older. He's been around for a while now. It's been since 2016. Brandon Stark, from Australia, got married, had a kid. He's been to 3 Olympics in a row, and Tamberi, and Tamberi happened to be, passing a kidney stone, bad timing, right? But and then there's always an unknown cast. Like the guy from South Africa looked real good. One of the there was a Ukrainian or one of those guys, and the Japanese guy showed up and looked great.
Hmm.
The Korean guy was still pretty solid. So there's a lot of great jumping going on. But I literally saw within a couple jumps, I go, oh, first of all, McEwen's opening jump at 7-1 was a monster, like
It
10-inch
was,
clearance, where
yeah, it was
I
insane.
literally just went, oh my God, I don't think I've ever seen it. Now I got to jump against Sotomayor, which is one of the best blessings of my life. Within a month after he had broken the world record, he came to UCLA and jumped. And since I'm a UCLA grad, I got into that meet. And I watched him open at 220 and go 220, 225, 230, 235, bing, 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 4 perfect jumps. And then at 240, which is 710 and a half, he caught it with his heels on his first jump. And I've never seen anybody come hit vertical at the speed that he was coming in like he did. So those were like wow jumps. They were clean. They were 4 to 5 inches of clearance over. But I mean, the 7-1 jump, I just went, oh my, I don't think I've ever seen anybody jump a foot over the bar at 7-1 before, And when I looked at it, it I don't know about you, but I think I watched his knee drive because I do that incessantly. The knee drive comes up and across, and he just left it. Like he didn't do anything,
Yeah.
but ride that knee all the way up. And it looked like at the top, he just kind of leaned back a little bit and went sailing over. And I tell all my jumpers, whatever style they are still, I go, I know some people don't really like to ride their knee as long, but in my mind, logically, if you ditch your knee ride early and you happen to hit a perfect layout and you squeak over, I'm like, okay, that's great. Now what? What are you gonna do when the bar goes up? You're
Yeah.
gonna you're
Yeah.
gonna milk that layout for another 2 inches? I'm like, I don't think so. I think you need to run a faster curve. I think you need to get farther away. So that's when you brought up your speed, where I was thinking that's smart, because people don't know this, but when you talk about powering up in physics, power is force times velocity. So when your velocity picks up, your power numbers go up, even if you're just the same strength. So if you get faster velocity, and you can create more force, now your power numbers are getting multiplied on both sides of that equation, right? So,
Exactly.
and I look at these knee drive and I'm like, Kerr was the same way. When Kerr finally had McEwen, you could tell McEwen was missing because, let's face it, he'd already PR'd twice, and he didn't really know how to make the bar. Like I wanted to be right there. I'm gonna go, dude, move back 2 inches and just try like heck to wait a little bit longer before you do anything. It's hard because you're trying to amp yourself up to put out the superhuman effort. And so I think from personal experience, I know that when I got really revved up, that my patience would go out the window. I could run faster, I could get my arms ready, I could do everything, but then everything speeded up. And
Hmm.
so you
Yeah.
might be right in the middle of your takeoff, and all of a sudden you're laying out. I was like, no, 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 everything's got to slow down. It's paradoxical. You're going as fast as you can to go as explosively as you can, but bam. And then it's like, now patience. I can hear Yoda, patience, my young Padawan, like ride this thing out, and when you watch Kerr's winning jump at 8 3/4, same thing. I mean, his knee finished 4 inches over the bar. I'm
Yeah.
watching that. I'm like
Yeah.
going, there was no doubt he was going to make that jump. And at the very top, when you look at him, he just kind of goes, oh, and he just like kind of popped his hip a little bit. And that was it. I was like, I go, that's making it simple, So yeah, the knee drive and ride, man. You're preaching to the choir on that one. So well, let's do it, man. Let's break yours down. Is there I can edit this later. We can leave it. I always I cannot minimize Zoom. Okay, let's not do that. Let's just move it. And then I'll minimize that because I have them sitting right on the desktop. So is there any particular, if you want to look at the ones you sent me from on Instagram, because I just copied them and sent them to my computer. Is there any particular order you want to go through, or you just want to like bang through them?
No, it doesn't really matter to me. You can pull
Okay.
up whichever one you want.
All right. I'm going to share screen with you,
All
and
right.
then we can both watch because that's much more fun. Share, desktop, share. Good. All right. I got them labeled Mills 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. So here's Mills 1. And we got the tall, narrow view. Yeah, it's not going to get any bigger than that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I got to find a way to do this, but all right. So I'm going to move this thing. I know by experience that is usually in the way down there. So we'll move it up here. All right. And here you are. This is at Drake University. Awesome. Where is Drake University?
That's in Des Moines,
Okay.
Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This isn't where the relays are though. That's
Oh, this is where the relays are, but this was
Drake.
a week or two before the Drake
Okay.
relays.
All right. So I can't see you back in here. So you're starting and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. So you're on 11 or 12? What are we doing? How many
I
steps?
do I do a 12
12
step.
step. That's pretty
Yeah.
long. And a standing start?
Yeah. Yeah.
Typical power American. Okay, so and here you are. I love this. Okay, you young jumpers out there that are wondering how you're going to jump higher. You may have looked as the first time I went through this, and Michael hit his plant here. He is nowhere near the bar, nowhere. And you have to be at least 3.5 feet out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
minimum. So the first thing I'm seeing here, and unfortunately I can't make you any bigger. The knee drive angle reminds me that is almost perfect. You can see the angle of your shin coming back into where your leg is. And, you're mentioning this isn't the best angle. I like to try to get that knee all the way across the hip.
Yeah.
If you watch, oh my gosh, Stephen Holm, when he gets his knee drive to go, it's, the up and across is just amazing.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can bring that up later. But this angle, your knee drive, it reminds me of? Have you found a comp for your knee drive yet? Anybody that you
Um,
watch internationally that you go, oh man, he does it just like me, or vice versa, like someone you want to be like?
not that anyone directly comes to mind.
Your knee drive reminds me of Ivanyk from the Ukraine. If you
Mm,
watch him, his knee drive is almost like this angle that you're at here. I like to look at it like a clock. So your leg is straight down at 6, your takeoff leg,
mhm.
and the angle we're looking at, it looks like 7:30, maybe even
Yeah.
close to 8 o'clock. Like boom, that's a great angle coming back. Because my contention is, the better that knee drive is back into the curve, the slower you swing towards the bar. So there you are. You hit that really, really nice. And then now you've got time, right, to go up
Yeah.
and wait, because there's a knee drive there. It continues on across. You can see it there for a sec. It's hard to get the exact bang across. Now that turns your back to the bar. And now when you throw your head back, even from way out here, I mean, you're talking about patience here, because you had to wait, right, for a while for your head to get close to breaking that vertical plane so that you can go down with it, right?
Mhm.
You start throwing your head back towards the plane of the bar, I believe it's a recipe for trouble, and it's hard to rotate after that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Bam, and a great layout position there. Obviously, half of your body is under the bar, the strength of the flop. Now, you're kind of a double and a half or 1.5? How's that lead arm? Is it creeping towards being a single arm, or how do you work that?
I feel like for the most part it's a single arm, but I don't know. Sometimes I get both of them up there. It really just depends on the jump. I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part, I feel like I'm a single arm jumper, but it's kind
And
of,
I
yeah.
can't
The other
see
one's kind
because,
of a half.
yeah, the standard's in the way. I can't see what that arm's doing. Are you reaching for your heel there, or is it just, what's that
I
arm doing?
think. Let me pull it up.
I'm gonna, we can look at another one. I'm sure man, that knee drive angle
Yeah,
is just tremendous.
my right one's kind of reaching back, and then my left one drops to my side.
Yeah. Well, I've looked at almost every way you can use your arms, from two, single. So I don't know if you saw the American heptathlete Hall, but she
Yeah.
jumped like 6'1" or something, and she has both arms up when she hits the ground. When her foot
Hmm.
hits the ground, both arms are already up. So she got no arm drive. It's just all knee drive, but both arms up makes her really tall, right? So I've looked at all of those, and 9 times out of 10, the backside arm just drops, like you said. Your single armor, you're going to drop this backside arm. Your double armor, you're going to bring both down, to here, whatever. Some double armors can now split and have one arm reach like a single armor and drop. But the backside arm, the only guy who didn't drop the backside arm was Fosbury, because Fosbury reversed his arms and brought
Hmm.
him up overhead. And I'm not sure. I have to watch again. Maybe he even did drop it after that. It's hard for me to coach that one particular style, just because it seems to me it's just so prevalent. It's so predicated to me on a certain body type. I think you have to be really tall and really thin and really fast to get any air like that. Like, I don't know why. I think it's just a personal prejudice. I've tried every kind of block there is, right, to show it to the athletes. I say, hey, I watch them jump a few times. And I can be like, well, what do you want to do? Are you going to be a double armor? Because you kind of, sometimes they'll give you a mix. Like you're saying, maybe in 3 jumps, you kind of do a little bit different each time. I'm like, just for consistency's sake, let's pick one, and maybe try to match it to your strengths, and that can be an adventure sometimes. But I've tried, I was a double armor for sure. I've been coaching a lot of, excuse me, a lot of single armors recently. So I mess around with it just to see, what it is, how does that work,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I literally have come up, me, I'm a king of overanalysis, right? So I'm
Hmm.
trying to quantify double arm, 1.5, 1, and none. I go, there's a wide variation. And then for the single armors, most single armors throw the lead arm up, but then Fosbury was throwing his reverse arm up, so there's 2 different types of single arms. And but anyway, I like breaking it down like that because I'm crazy into that. The things that I can see are the huge positives are, yeah, it looks like a single because that arm's starting to creep up.
Yeah.
God, that knee drive angle is really, really good. All right, let's take a look at another one. That's solid stuff. All right, Mills 1, Mills 2. See if we get any bigger. I don't know how these translate. I really need somebody that's a techie because my knowledge is terrible. I can make this stuff work. All right, here you are again. You're hiding in the crowd.
Yeah.
Not sure where Michael is. He's just going to burst out of there. Oh, there he is. All right. And one thing I can see here, even as you're 2 steps away now, right? You're on your left foot. Tremendous lean angle. So
Hmm.
those of you out there that are carrying decent speed towards the bar, like Michael is saying, his number one attribute is his speed. If you're going to be running really fast and you're going to try to hit vertical, you'd better be leaning. You better be leaning away from the bar and back a little bit also in 2 different dimensions for sure, because, the way long jumpers lead back so they don't do a front flip, we have to do the same. And then, it's just, it doesn't always make intuitive sense to jumpers, but when you're coming through at high speed, my contention is it's harder to hit vertical at high speed. It's just,
Hmm.
it really becomes difficult unless you're just ungodly strong or your technique is just perfect, where you can swing that leg up through at the perfect time from the perfect lean. Everything hits perfect timing. Yes, I've only, like I said, jumped against a couple that did that every time. Sotomayor was one, and I think I actually got to jump against him twice, which is weird, but I know one for sure. And then Lee Balkin, my teammate, at UCLA, he jumped 7.3 or 7.3 in high school, and he still owns the state meet record, not the state record, but getting to the state meet and performing. He jumped
Yeah.
7.3. Lee always hit vertical every time I ever watched him. So in practice, it was almost infuriating.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was kind of a gloomy Gus sometimes. He'd be like, "Oh, I didn't like that jump. Oh, I didn't do that." And we're watching it on video. I'm like, "Yeah, but you're going straight up. You always go straight up. How's that possible for somebody who runs as fast as you?" So anyway, if you see this right here at toe off, that leg is straight, the leg's coming across, the knee drive's trying to save you. Now your head is already tilted towards the bar,
Yeah.
and upper body's a little bit in. So now, did you move farther away from the bar because of the wash through effect, or did you used to be a lot closer in high school? I guess I'm wondering, because right now you're way farther out there than most.
Well, in high school, to be honest, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But
Weren't we
um,
all?
for the most part, I'm kind of further away because of how fast I'm coming in,
Yeah.
and with how fast I'm moving after takeoff, it allows me to have more time to rise up and then get ready to get over. So that's kind of why I'm further
Yeah.
away than most.
Preach it, brother. That's it. I mean, it does depend. It's hard to tell. Like if you watch Kerr, for instance, because how tall are you again, Michael? You said you're a shorter jumper. Are you under 6 feet?
Just at 6 feet.
Right at 6 feet. So, Kerr's like 6'6", 6'7", right?
Mhm.
One of my favorites to watch, Fabian Delrid from Sweden, six
Mhm.
nine, right? Real tall guy, real strong, jumped 7'7", a couple of years ago. And, when I watch his stuff, I'm just like, oh gosh, it's like cheating, But when you're coming in that fast, you have to have room and time.
Mhm.
Nobody realizes how fast both Sotomayor, because he's taking those long bounding strides. When you see someone who's really cycling well and they're running at high speed, it's like those things people don't realize. If you watch a 400-meter runner or a 400-meter hurdle, right? And they've got those nice long loping bounding strides, right? And you'll watch, and if you didn't know any better, you'd be like, they don't look like they're really running that fast, because their turnover is so long that you're thinking, well, they're not really, running, like sprinting. They're
Right.
just kind of loping. But it's like you don't realize that the stride length is maximized, or close to it, and they are turning their legs over pretty fast. It's just that they're covering so much ground, right?
Mhm.
So that's the thing that is the big variable. But my little Romanian guru, Baru, God rest his soul, he used to tell me, within the first month of working together, he was like, "You need to get farther away from the bar." Now he said this in little Romanian ease, which was, "You big man, get out, get away from the bar, get close," And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But for the most part, it came across to me pretty quick. It made sense, just because maybe kinesiology and some biomechanics classes, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If I'm moving faster, I need room, and I'm going to need time every time the bar goes up, because, the more speed you're carrying in, just do the little parabolic orbit thing and try to stick the bar right in the middle, right? As you're
Yeah.
going faster, it's going to get a little bit wider. As it
Mhm.
gets a little higher, you got to start pulling back,
Yeah.
So it's hard for some people, because I don't know if you've noticed this when you started it, but I get, young gals, even the younger guys, and I'm like, hey, let's start moving back. If you try to move them too far back, they'll either stretch out all their strides to get
Yep.
back where they were going, lower and slower, and they can't get off the ground. And they look at you like you caused the problem. And I'm like, no, 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 run fast, run faster, and take off from farther out. And then I'll have to, at age 60, put something down on the ground that's well away from the bar, and I put it low, of course, but I'll still take off from way farther out and show them that, yes, you can get up in the air and you can sail into the pit. I mean, it's, as I don't know, have you ever done the long jump?
Yeah, I did it a couple times. I did it at two meets last year, and then a couple years before that, I
You
did
had
it.
to break 20 feet, right? I'm assuming 20, 21, 22 with your
Yeah,
speed.
my best jump was 6 meters 95.
Yeah, that's over 20 feet for sure, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what I'm saying is, I mean, from here, if we measure the distance from your foot to the pit is what, 3.5, 4 feet? You know,
probably.
if you're a
I'd say so.
21-foot long jumper, yeah, you're going to go up, but guess what? You need to travel through the air, you know, quite a bit
Yeah,
as well, right? You're not going to have any trouble. That's what I keep telling you, young jumpers out there, when you're running fast, unless you run too deep in your curve and take those last
yep,
couple steps straight down the bar. Now you
yep.
might not make the pit. But if you're attacking with that plant foot, you know, back towards the back corner here, I can't tell. Let's look at that. Yeah, you're not changing direction that hard. Yeah, that looks almost like a 45. Are you pointing that foot at the back left corner of the pit? Any idea?
Uh, Sort of. It's kind of towards the middle
Yeah, but
of
it's
the.
not parallel to the bar, right?
No,
Yeah,
no.
there's no way. So yep, there's a backside arm. I like the fact that at the takeoff, you managed to get that arm above your head. Like sometimes I'll see that arm come across under the chin. You know, I'm like,
Hmm.
this arm is up, but this arm's going like this. I always think, man, I want to get that other arm, you know, up to get you some more air. Knee drive angle is really, really good. Here you can really see the verticality as you're still going up. I mean, your head's way over here. And then this is just another question because these are the things that bother me. Like I tell all the kids, I go, well, you can throw your head back, eyes closed. You can, or down more correctly for me. I don't like to say back towards the vertical plane. I'd rather break the horizontal plane of the bar. You can throw your head down, right? But when do you do it? You know, because there's number one, there's a time lag between when
Yeah.
we think something and when we actually do it. So, you know, when you see it, like, do you have a vertical, what I want to say, like a visual reference, or do you just go on a, kind of an internal timing?
I kind of go on an internal timing. Uh, I think for the most part, my eyes are pretty closed when I jump.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I go more off of when I feel my left or my right knee drop. When I feel
Mm-hmm.
my right knee drop, I kind of know it's time to
Right.
start my rotation.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at that too, because we were talking about this earlier. So here's the knee drive back into the curve, and then it continues to sweep across you because you drove it so hard, and you definitely leave it alone. Well, right here, you pop your hip, right? So
Hmm.
as you're saying, that knee kind of drops, and then it's not a real heavy pop move. And
Mm-mm.
this is a point of emphasis for me. I like watching, like, you brought him up earlier, Javon Harrison, right? He brings one knee up, he brings the other knee up, and then he pops both hips. Sometimes he pops one, then the other. Like it's
Yeah,
all kinds of variations. But you know, the idea of getting the knee as high as you can. Like I usually preach, let's try to get the knee drive and ride up to the bar if you can.
yeah.
You know, like we were talking about Kerr and McEwen. You know, if you can ride the knee over, then you don't even have to lay up if you can do it. Um, and I always preach your beautiful layout here is like the cherry on the top of the sundae. You know, like it comes last for a reason, right? So here's
Hmm.
your straight, here's your curve, here's your takeoff, here's your flight, and quite a long flight before the layout actually begins. Now, you know, the beginners, lots of times you'll see the head already going back and even while
Yeah.
the foot's still on the ground, right? So that becomes problematic. It definitely limits you. All right. Do you have any goals for your arms when you're up in the air? Would you like to get them on your hips or get one reaching for your heel, or because this one looks a little different than the other one, right? The other jump.
And not really. For me, they kind of just do what they do. It doesn't really. I
Yeah.
don't have any reason for
Ah,
any of that.
tremendous rotation here. I mean, and this is
Yeah.
kind of a backside. You and Dontavius, another guy. Gosh, you know, the more you're talking about it, the more you remind me of Stephen Holmes. Stephen Holmes was 5'11", 5'11" and a quarter, and he jumped 7'11" and a quarter. So he's jumped 2 feet over his own head, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen any of his posts on Instagram, but he's that guy that does those like 6 foot high hurdles, just running
Oh
straight
yeah.
ahead. And he would drive his knee up and just ride it up and over, like no big deal, right? and he had the knee drive back into the curve. But I've got a video of his where he just leaves his knee drive alone at the top. Let me see. Did I put it in here? Nah, I thought I made a file of all the stuff that I would generally share. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Is it in here? No, no. I got to work on my game still. I need more hours in a day is what I need. No. Okay, never mind. I've got to get his in there, but you're doing a lot of the same things. This layout sequence, because I used to say it almost looks like at the very top, as your head's all the way back, that instead of going to your right, because we're running towards the right on the curve, as the top, as you throw your head back, it looks like you have to twist to the left in order to get this to do this, right? To spin sideways and your head on the left, because your body goes
Yeah.
onto your left, right? So as your head goes back, it's got to be going a little bit to the left. And I think Dontavius does it, and I've seen Stephen Holm do that. So you're you're in fantastic company.
Mhm.
That's pretty awesome. What was this particular height? It looks pretty high.
That was 220. That was my first time jumping it outdoor. That actually broke the NAIA outdoor record. So
Nice.
that's why I got so excited right there.
That and a trip to the trials, right? Oh man, that's awesome. Was this year also, or was this a couple of years ago?
Yeah, this was all in the same year. The last video we saw was 220. This is 220. The one in indoor is 220. And then I have the outdoor championships at 220 as well.
Awesome. Yeah, not your first rodeo at 220. I think you officially have made it more times than I did. I think 220 was like a nemesis height for me. I think I only made it twice in my whole career. So I went 218 my sophomore year, 7.2, and then I went 219, 2.25, and then on the same day, first and only time since the very first time that I ever jumped. I'm sure most people, first time you jump, you get several PRs, right? Because you've never done it before, and you'll make a few
Yeah.
heights, so you don't realize that you're breaking your PR over and over. But once you've been jumping for a while, they're harder to come by. And I had never done a multiple one until the last home meet of my senior year. And I tell everybody too, Lee Balkin, highly respected teammate. I never beat him when he was at UCLA, but he came back for a meet. It was my senior year, and we were jumping against the University of Houston at UCLA. So it was my last home meet, and I jumped 2.25, 219, and then the bar was going up at threes. So I went up to 222, and I made it on my second jump. First time ever that I made two PRs in the same meet. And that
Wow.
was the only time I beat Lee Balkin in my life. And I had to PR twice to do it. And then I also tell everybody, like, you're fortunate enough here to win. Every single time that I PR'd in college, I didn't even win the meet.
Really?
Sometimes third. Yeah, the first time I jumped 218 was against Lee Balkin and John Morris. John Morris was like a 225 jumper from Cal, up north. At least I'm sure he jumped 7.6 or 7 some other times too. So yeah, they both beat me on misses that time. And then that was two. And like I said, 2.25. Well, let's back up. 7 feet. When I did that, of course, Lee beat me at that one too. I'm not sure why I didn't. But anyway, I jumped 7 feet, then 7.1. But I jumped 7.1 after I jumped 7.2. So yeah. But anyway, every single time it was it was really humbling. So I finally beat Lee to jump, 7.3.5. That got me to qualify for NC2As my senior year, the only time I made it. You had to jump 7.3.5, or you didn't get to go. There was no regionals or
Yeah.
anything like that back then.
Yeah.
And so it was 3.5 or nothing. And then so I beat Lee, and a guy from Houston named Mark Reed, who was being coached by Tom Telez, he jumped 225. He
Oh,
jumped 7.4.5 to beat me. I took one really good jump at 7.4.5, but I didn't have it that day. So that would have been my third PR. But yeah, so every single time. So you got a collection of 7.2.5s, and you get to go to the trials, which is amazing. All right. And this is the rare from directly from behind you. So we get to see how you drop into your curve. That'll be awesome. And there we go. So we're transitioning. Which foot do you think you start your curve on?
My left. I think I do 6 and 6.
So you kind of do a jump cut and a 6-step curve. One, two. Yeah, you're really moving. Boom. This is my least favorite angle, except for a couple things. I do like to see the transition into the curve, so it's valuable. And then also from this particular angle, if it's literally a 90-degree angle, you can see your lean back, what I call the lean back angle, because you can't see how you're leaning away from the bar at all, but you can see how far your head is behind your
Behind.
foot
Mhm.
at takeoff, which is huge. Because again, you have to have time to hit. Yeah, your knee does a couple interesting things there. You see it come across, and then here you pick it back up again just for a sec. So you see that angle gets sharper right there for just a
Yeah.
tick, and then the pop right there. Man, look at that rotation, dude. Crazy. Yeah, that's the other thing I had going for me, man. 6'3" and 195 pounds. I was not fast. I was okay, but I was nowhere near as quick as you. I was definitely a power guy. I would get some speed, and when I tried to get faster, I'd get out of control. I
Yeah.
couldn't deal with the extra speed. So
That
uh,
happened to me the first couple of years that I tried to get moving. I couldn't really control it, but the last 2 years I've been able to control it pretty well.
see, I like this. Your back arm is really getting air. For a single armor, this arm is very active. So that's I see you as a single just because as you're hitting your foot on the ground, it looks like your elbow's already up past your shoulder. So to me, if you're going to drive it up, right, it's going to start low and behind you if you're a double armor. And then it, like a volleyball player would, or any
Yeah.
basketball player fighting for a rebound, right? You're going to reach back with both arms and jump up. Unless you can just jump up with one arm and grab it over somebody. But you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
but here you definitely utilize that backside arm for lift. Yeah, that tremendous rotation. All right, so we're three-fifths of the way through. All right, here's Mills number 4. So where are we on this one?
This is the first meet of the year when my first time clearing 220. This is in Northwest Missouri State.
This is the one you said that really increased your confidence, right?
Yeah, this was the one.
Look at that angle, dude. That's even more than 8 o'clock. That's like creeping up towards 9. You got to have tremendous strength through your hips. I think my leg would pop out of the joint there. That's like wham. That's like almost like in a MMA. Like instead of kneeing somebody, I tell them because I preach this knee angle that you're driving your knee at here, big time. So one of my favorite new drills is to if the football team's out there, they leave the sleds. So they
Oh
have
yeah.
tackling sleds, and it looks like a little guy, face mask, and his arms are hanging down like this. And so I'm like, yeah, just stand back here and let's just knee this guy right in the head. Drive your knee up and through and just bam right into it. And that is it. That angle right there. Oh yeah, look at how much time you have.
Hmm.
Jeez. You just have all day to wait. Nice. From all the way out there, bang. And watch how close the knee gets. I mean, you rode it. My standard quote unquote rule is ride the knee as long as you can. And if it's within an inch or two either way, you're pretty safe, right? You can do
Yeah.
your out and get away with it. So you can see right here, your knee is very close to the level of the bar. And I always tell everybody, well, look, where's your midway point? Your midway point's not your knee, it's your hip, right?
Hmm.
So if your knee is all the way up at the bar, your hip should be well above that,
Yeah.
as long as you wait, like here, like if your knee gets up to where your hip is and you're vertical, they're at the same height. If you leave that knee up as you're falling over, now your knee is higher than your hip. And there is
Hmm.
a certain point where you've got to do what you do here, which is throw your head back and drop that drive knee back to match the other leg, right? Which is right there. Oh, that's nice. This is the other thing I'll preach. You jumpers out there, you want to know when your layout is in the wrong position. So if you see this here, Michael's in what I call that perfect, the golden arch, if you want to call it, not to bring McDonald's to mind, but a perfect half circle, basically, right? Hips up, your head is well below the bar, as are your feet, right? So a tremendous part of your body is actually below the bar while you're clearing it, which is the key to the whole technique. But your best position, which I'm going to say is that's a pretty good one, but you're really long here still.
Yeah.
hand way out here and your feet back here. So right about here, your head gets about as close to your feet as it's going to get, right? And
Hmm.
so when you look at that, the beauty of this is when I would put a green circle around yours, which doesn't happen often. And because green is good and red is bad when I'm analyzing film, I put a green circle around that and I draw a line in between your head and your feet. And if that line is horizontal to the ground, like double thumbs up. If it's tilted, the more it's tilted, the more it starts looking like a C instead
Yeah.
of the arch, the more you're too early, right? So, and somebody could argue and say, well, yeah, but he started his head back, say there, but again, I just judge by the best position. And the beauty of this is if you get your head lower than your feet, jumps over. You're in that high bridge and your head gets lower than your feet. It's like a slinky. You just go head down here and the rest of the slinky just goes over, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. Tremendous jump. So real quick aside, what did you jump at after all these times that you made 220? Did you routinely go right to 225 or did you go to 223? Where'd you go?
I went right to 223. That was the trial standard, so I kept trying to jump in. I jumped at it what, probably 15 times
Yeah.
last season.
Yeah. Five times you
Didn't
made
get it
it.
a single time.
Yeah. Five times you made 220 and then you get
Mhm.
3 shots each time. Um, and help us out with this too. I know I never did it. When you say you're trying to raise the bar in practice, how high do you really jump out of practice when you're working on technique?
Um, when it's technique, typically I'll have it at like six, 6'10", 7 feet. I'm trying to get more comfortable at those two heights. I mean, I typically when I'm working up towards it, I don't really have a problem with those heights, but like now I'm seeing that as a starting point rather than an ending point. Because
Right,
all last season, my outdoor season, I had one meet where I didn't jump over 7 feet. I jumped 210 at the Drake relays. That was my only meet that I didn't jump over 7 feet.
right.
So I'm now looking at these heights as a starting height rather than an ending height. So that's typically
Right.
where I'm at right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I remember one time, my sophomore year, I 5-step 210, and then I think I was after I left UCLA one day with Elias, and there was one day that I jumped 7 feet at a practice. I was not we worked on stuff and you would
Yeah.
jump high, but I don't remember really trying to push the envelope too much. And Elias wasn't that way either. We usually started, with backovers and we'd go 1, 3, 5. By the time you got through pushing yourself through ones, threes, and fives, working up from low heights, there wasn't really a lot left for fulls,
Mhm.
but uh I don't think that was me doing that. I think it was him doing that. But yeah. All right. So this is our last one. Where are you on this one? NIA
Um,
else? Just NAIA?
yeah, this is the national championships in South Dakota.
South Dakota. All right. And this was in May or April?
This was, I believe this was the end of February, beginning of March.
Oh, this is the indoor. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, indoor.
So yeah, here you can see the head go back and that little bit to the other side. And there's a sideways flip, tremendous rotation. And also one of my least favorite angles because it's hard for me to see. I can't see where your foot's pointed. I can't see
Yeah.
what the knee's doing, right? From this angle. I can see the arm really coming as a single there up. But that backside arm really does some work too. But yeah, you can tell that your foot has hit the ground. Let's guess it there. And that elbow's, you're already reaching that arm. To me,
Mhm.
if that arm is just kind of going like this, you can't really get any air doing this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is, I think the only purpose for that lead arm is to make you taller. If you're
Mhm.
running fast and you get that foot on the ground, that arm's already swinging up. One of my favorite illustrations for that, I got to dig out some video. Um, my brain just sees Dr. J. And Dr. J literally dribbling down the court, right? It's such an unbelievable athlete, but 6'6", maybe 180, 185. I mean, I'm probably making him thinner than he was when he was in his prime because I remember he was pretty jacked upper body. They have a picture of him one time punching Larry Bird. So he had pretty good guns, but he was like he would dribble, right? And he had those long, spindly fingers, and he would just dribble, and then catch it on the dribble with his hand, just palm it, right? Just boom, catch, put it overhead, and then jump, right? And you could tell it was like he could even put his arm up and carry it for a couple steps like that if he wanted to. But it was like that arm was already up before he went to jump. And I know he didn't use that to jump. It was the other arm and the speed and everything else. So that's the easiest way for me to visualize the single, getting air. But I preach using that other arm, which I love seeing out of you here. I can see that arm it's really not doing that short. Like if you watch, gosh, do we have her on here? Where's Mahuchich? We'll take a look at that just a second. Okay, so, and relatively, you're going over before the middle of the bar, right? So this is another thing I'm going to tell you guys that are, if you watch Michael here where he plants, where he goes over, you're flying right towards that back left corner. And that means to me that's where that foot was pointed, right? There's no way to baby that around. You have to go on the line that you're picking there, I love the way you can reach for the mat right here. And you're landing literally on your hands and feet like a cat. So this is just like if you haven't done it yet, I recommend it for anybody that wants to be a great high jumper. But watch the 2016 final in the Olympics with Druin, Barshim, and Bondarenko, because all of them rotate so amazingly well. I mean, this is 8 years ago. Bondarenko is 6'8" and runs like a deer. Druin's 6'5" and runs like a deer. And I think Barshim's 6'4", but Barshim looks like he's 6'4" and like 120 pounds or something. He's so skinny. And they all just rotate tremendously over the bar and land just like you're landing, like there's no risk of a neck injury, right? You're landing flat. So, all right, let's take a quick peek. I think I have her sitting up here. Not to compare you to a female jumper, but I'm so curious about the, I tell everybody, I go, hey, male or female, the mechanics and the physics are the same.
Oh, yeah.
So watch, there's the single. So she's getting taller. The elbow is definitely above the shoulder, and your foot's hitting right here. Watch the backside arm. It goes under her chin.
Oh.
Under her chin.
Yeah.
Now, the knee drive angle is tremendous. Not quite as high as yours, but it's good, and it goes past her hip. You can see it here. It's turning her back to the bar. Then she lengthens that leg out, which I think is a compensation for the fact that she's a little bit too close.
Yeah.
See here, I don't know how tall she is, but she might be taller than you are. And
she is. She's
right on top of the bar here. She's almost touching the bar with that lead arm, right? From where her foot strike is.
Yeah.
But she's got to get that knee up, ride it, and then get into position quickly, or she's just going to run out of room. So, that's amazing. And again, here you can see when her head and her feet are on the same level, she's not in an arch. She's kind of yanking her legs over already. So I would say, again, she went into layout a little early simply because she's too close. I don't think it's, that she doesn't think she's going to be able to make it. And again, you can see the head going back here. And so she's actually kind of breaking the plane with it there, but she just holds it and keeps spinning. Hard to pick on a 6'10" and 3/4 jump, right? I think, from farther out and doing the stuff that she does so well, I think she could jump 7 feet.
I agree.
And that'd be great for women's high jumping. It'd be like getting a gal that could, a female jumper that could play in the NBA or something, like dunk over everybody and stuff. All right. So that's amazing stuff, Michael. I look at what you're doing. So are there any plans for, like you said, you've got your technique things that you're I would imagine you can't get hugely faster, right? But you're going to train yourself to be fast. If you could run faster, and you're only 22 now?
Yeah, I'm 22.
22. So I remember those days. I did have some speed, but train your speed, and then you got your training program set out, I'm sure, with your plyos and your lifting and all that stuff.
Yep.
And like I said, attack both ends of that force, the power formula. Power is force times velocity. So, and as long as you remember to keep getting that little bit out, you know, centimeter or two at a time, and you'll be awesome. So now that you're no longer in school, everything changes, right? Your competition schedule and all that. What are we doing here? Are you going to do any indoor jumping, or you can go all outdoors?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple meets coming up. I got a meet this weekend. I'm going back to Northwest Missouri State. Um, our jumps coach is actually going to be out of town for marathon nationals,
Uh-huh.
and I entered in this meet. I'm going to go down and help a couple of our jumpers that we have, just to kind of help them, open up the season strong. And then next weekend, I'm going to um, Lincoln, Nebraska, to jump at Nebraska's indoor meet. So I'm going to be going to quite a few bigger meets than normal for our team that
Hmm.
we have. I think I'm looking at the University of Iowa. I want to try and get down to Arkansas. They have a an elite jumps team. Like they've got Romaine Beckford, who jumped for Jamaica in the Olympics.
Yes.
They
Yes.
have Scotty Vines, who was a high schooler last year, jumped 7'4", jumped against him at the trials.
Wow.
They have a few other guys that can't quite remember, but they have a good jumps team. So I want to try and make my way down there to jump against those guys.
Another suggestion for you, if you really want to be pushed, is to go find out where Grand Valley.
Yeah, yeah,
They got
those
four
guys
guys
are.
there now. Three guys that made the trials last year, and they're a
Yep.
D2 school, right? Little step up from NAIA, but still below D1. Three guys that made the trials, and now they got Marcus Gelpy going there too.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I talked with those guys last year at the trials. I jumped against Eli at the Drake Relays a couple
right.
years ago, I believe. So
Yeah.
I've seen those guys around. They're really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the young Americans are definitely a lot of talent and still room to grow. So it's gonna be exciting to see what you guys do over the next 3 years. Well, it's not 2025 yet, but we're in the 3.5. No, yeah, call it 3 2/3, I guess. Is there is there any this is gonna sound dumb coming from somebody who's supposed to know everything about the high jump. Is there a US indoor national that you
Yeah,
can do at?
there's a the championships this year are in Staten Island, New York, and I think they take the top 12 entries. I believe it's half a field smaller than outdoor.
Okay.
So I'm also shooting for that as well.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love high goals. Those of you that are out there trying to get better, like Michael, you can't set, little low goals. I always encourage the kids, what'd you jump last year? I'm like, 4.8. I'm like, what do you want to jump this year? They're like 4.10. I'm like, come on, 4.10. Come on. You jumped 4.8 last year. 4.10
Yeah,
would be an improvement, but let's aim a little bit higher, So um you can't aim any higher than being the league champ for 8 years. Eight, four indoor and four outdoor in a row, and then 6-time All-American, all that. But now you've got indoor championships, outdoor championships. It used to be, I forget the different names. It used to be the TAC meet when I was around, the TAC. They called it the TAC, the Athletics Congress. Now it's all USATF stuff. So, well, hey, Michael, really awesome catching up with you. Thanks for sharing with us your experience and your training plans, your goals, your dreams, your videos, which are awesome. And please keep us in the loop. And any kind of promotion. Now that you're out of college, you don't have to worry about most of that stuff.
yeah,
Please send me videos. I'll be happy to do posts and say, hey, Michael's in he's found a meet where all the Grand Valley guys are, or whatever. He's going against the Arkansas guys this week, and we'll watch you in action. Any chance, let me know ahead of time too if there's any way to catch it, on TV, or I don't know if they do live Instagram. I'm still trying to find ways to promote obviously the sport. I don't know if you saw the recent thing by Michael Johnson, the great Olympic sprinter. But he said he thinks he can save track, but he's not sure he can save field.
yeah,
Thought that
yeah.
was it was apropos. And I'm like, well, come on, just do a little bit of work. But, when you're a
Yeah,
sprinter, I mean, they're not supposed to save everything. They're just supposed to promote, and there's track and there's field. And unfortunately, the track events catch, more of the public eye. They love the 100. They
yeah.
love the 4x1. They love the 4x4. Maybe not the 200 because it takes twice as long for Americans with short attention spans.
Mhm.
Watching the 200 or the 400, it seems almost interminable, but the sprints still dominate. And interestingly enough, the distances too. Jeremy Fisher from the training center down in Chula Vista here in California. He and I were talking a podcast back, and he was lamenting the fact that the jumpers don't really make much money.
Yeah.
You have to almost break a world record for anybody to
Mhm.
go, oh, great job. Here's some performance fees, blah, blah, blah. It's like underappreciated. It's rare that we get seen on TV. I love the Olympics just because I got to watch everybody for once, go through both qualifying and whatnot and see every single jump. That's been, the dream. It would be nice to have somebody super qualified to do the call. But and the angles are always jacked up too, but we'll take what we can get. So you got anything else on your mind you want to share with us?
No, not anything I can think of, but I appreciate
Oh,
you. I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to do this with me. And
oh,
I
dude.
apologize for taking as long as I did to respond, but I'm glad
Oh,
we got
no,
together
no,
to catch
not at all, man. You kidding? You're busy jumping 7.2 every week and
up.
going to the Olympic trials. What do I got to say? I'm just a school teacher trying to teach other people how to high jump. So, hey, congratulations on a fantastic year last year. Your accomplishments are amazing. Getting to the trials, like a dream come true for me. I'm sure it was for you. And hey, having this head start, being able to be, maybe 25, 26 next time, right? At the peak of your powers, and having had that experience before, just pray that you stay healthy, and that everything continues to get better. But it's gonna be fun to watch. Um, so Michael, thanks for spending the time, man, and stay in touch. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Bye.